Ever felt frustrated being told PMS, heavy bleeding, and cramping are just normal parts of life? You are not alone. I loathed my monthly cycle for decades. That all changed when I earned 3 health coaching certifications discovering something incredible. Your period is vital. It is an outward sign of your inner health, and it holds the key to unlocking your full potential. I've been there battling heavy, painful periods, and I turn them into cycles with minimal PMS and cramping. Today, I'm on a mission to share that information with you. Pour a cup of your favorite drink, get comfy, and grab your headphones as we embark on a candid and empowering journey of self-discovery. Together, we'll demystify menstrual cycles, explore cyclical living, delve into natural birth control, and guide parents through those crucial period talks with tweens and teens. It's time to break the taboo around menstruation and embrace the wisdom it holds. I'm your host, Heather Almendinger, and this is the Embracing Flow podcast. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Embracing Flow. I'd like to introduce my guest today, an expert at Embracing Flow, Erin Catron. Erin, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I'm very excited, actually.
I am super excited for you to be here today. Guess you will find out why in just a little bit. Before we get into why she's here and what we're going to talk about, Erin is a clinical therapist of over 20 years who has evolved her work into nervous system and awareness training, helping people understand how stress, trauma, and protection patterns live in our bodies. With a background spanning mental health counseling, yoga, meditation, energetic anatomy, and spirituality, Erin brings a truly holistic lens to healing. She has worked across psychiatric hospitals, schools, foster care, private practice, supporting people of all ages. And through that work, she's come to see just how transformative nervous system education can be, not only for personal healing, but for collective expansion. Erin is the founder of This Space, a virtual and pop-up community wellness model, reimagining what wellness can look like. And she's also the host of the Align with Love podcast, where she explores how we soften the barriers around the heart and begin to live, heal, and lead from a place of deeper awareness and connection. Your work is so important, Erin, and I'm delighted to have you here on Embracing Flow.
Yes, thank you.
My pleasure. Before we get really into the nitty-gritty of what you do, are you open to sharing a cycle story and about what age you were when you started cycling?
Yes. It's so interesting because I knew this question was coming, right? Listening to the podcast, I'm like, okay. But I really started to think about that because these are like aspects we forget, like many, many years later, or the psyche, shutting it down. But my family was a beach family. We were always at the beach. The guys were the surfers. And I remember we had moved. And that summer, I had a babysitter because this was a new area. And so I was probably, I think it was sixth grade going into seventh, which is like kind of too old for a babysitter, but like my younger siblings would go to the beach and I would go. And I remember getting it at the beach and I was like, we need to go now. Like, this is a problem. And the babysitter was like, not like so much older than me. She was really like my brother's friend. But she was really cool. She was like a mentor. And so she like, it's fine. This is like how we're going to navigate this. But when I started to think about that time, I remember when I got home, it was in the home that it was like, okay, like this is how we do this. And you're going to wrap this thing up and throw it away. And so nobody knows that you like, we don't want anyone to know that you have your cycle. And I was just like, wow, like I am so grateful that you are having these conversations because think about like what that did to me. It's like, okay, this needs to be a secret. There's a little bit of shame. No one can know about this. And that like lends directly to like all of my work of those imprints, especially with trauma, especially with, and we can get into all of that, but shame and what that does to the body mind connection and the undercurrents and the defense system. And I would never have remembered that. I was like, wow, yeah, that was a big one.
It is. It's a turning point. It's a major event in our life, and how others see it and view it. Um, my mother didn't tell me what was going to happen. I was embarrassed that my father found out.
Hmm.
And it wasn't in a good way. It was, oh, your stepmother told me you didn't clean out your underwear and you spotted all over your underwear. You really need to clean out your underwear. And I'm like, ew,
Hmm.
why is my dad telling this? Why you do have, it's the emotions that you get from those family members that you're like,
Hmm.
all right, this is happening to me. I don't know what's really going on.
Hmm.
But then you have that shame and that guilt that you didn't do something right
Hmm.
coming from other family members, and how that impacts you for the remainder of your days unless you go back and you actually like, oh, whoa, hold on. This happened. Yes, it helped shape you, but this definitely has that mind body connection.
Hmm.
And it can help you get to where you are today.
Yes. Well, and I had a family. We had there, I had two brothers on one side and two brothers on the other. And that was so much of what I started to like lean into when I had to like revisit this memory of, right, the boys think it's gross, the dads that can't talk about it, the parents that aren't like, okay, this is a thing and let's talk about it and open up these conversations. And I think about even and this is so much of my work is like the language that we use, especially about, first of all, these are our natural rhythms, but like what do we call it? Do we call our cycle? Is it our ant flow? Is it our time of the month? Is it my situation? Or can we use the terminology of, oh, it's my bleed or my menstruation? Can we say our period? So like in the work of trauma, when I work with trauma, there's a couple of different definitions that I use, but one of them is if we do or do not have support, right? So, like, okay, can I go to you with this thing, or is this okay to talk about? And another being that disconnection from self, right? Of like, okay, these are my natural rhythms, these sacred rhythms, and now we are disconnected from that as well. So this like is a wonderful weaving of your work and my work. I was just like, oh, I'm so excited for this. Also,
I,
to your listeners, I'm like a big nerd, so like these things
and
excite me.
it's for some reason menstrual cycles excite me now. I was embarrassed by it for the longest time.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
even in different situations, I need to be cognizant. Will bleed ignite trigger trauma?
Hmm. Hmm.
So sometimes I will use uterine release.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sometimes it depends on outward
Hmm.
flow. It really depends on the
Hmm.
situation and where I'm at, because we can be very traumatized
Hmm.
by
Hmm.
this situation. And it kind of depends on how we were traumatized by it as well.
Hmm.
Was it the verbiage? Was it the fact that we didn't know, we thought we were dying when we saw blood coming
Hmm.
out of a part of our body that we never saw? We weren't told it was supposed to happen.
Hmm. Hmm.
With trauma, and we kind of have been jumping around this. How can we take situations like this or stories like this that
Hmm.
have internally traumatized us in small ways or large ways,
Hmm.
and help our body realize that, okay, we are safe. This is no longer a needed trauma. It doesn't, we're not in fight or flight, and work through that trauma to begin healing from how others took the
Hmm.
news that we've now hit our reproductive years.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. This is the crux of my work, in essence, in so many different contexts. So sometimes I speak very vaguely so we can apply it, in whatever context that means. But essentially, first we start with the nervous system awareness. So that's where I've taken so much of this work to really refine it down to first we need the awareness and then we can do the training. So we start with getting to know what our body does in, I really simplify it into survival and safety systems. So when I can start to get back in tune with my body, right? And again, memories, I say thoughts, worries of the future, for the listeners, if I say to grab that and hold that, those things are not tangible, right? I can feel it, but I can't hold it. So I call those things disembodied, right? The memory is disembodied, the worries of the future, the thoughts, the ruminating. So a lot of this is getting back into body, in body. And that then awareness of like, okay, well, what does my body do when it's triggered? Or how do I know it's in the survival mode versus safety? And I find a lot of us, and this is really the crux of the space, is for so many people, even though we feel safe, there's this undercurrent of dysregulation, there's this undercurrent of activation. And so, what does safety look like? What does it feel like in your body? So, we do a lot of like training there as well to tap back into that. And then we go into a little more depth of majority of our imprints, is what I call them, or adaptations, come from a time where, let's say, that was warranting survival, right? At a young age or those younger ages, a lot of these things are like a sense of belonging, or, embarrassment means I'm going to be shunned. That's a tribal knowing. We need a sense of belonging at those young ages. But the nervous system, where this is all encoded in my work, it doesn't know time. It's the same. I have the same nervous system when we're infants, when we're 7, 12, 14, 20, like all of those experiences get stored in, that translator, I call it. So then we start to kind of untether those experiences. So we validate them and honor them. And I use words, this work is very sacred to me. So we honor that memory experience, perceived experience, even. And then we start to talk to it of like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That was really embarrassing. But when I understand that it was based on survival at that time, but here I call it a timestamp, 2025 or almost 2026, do I still need that as a survival mechanism? And that's how we begin this like very gentle untethering. It's like, oh, I honor that. And I no longer need that to be the complete story. It's just a piece of the story, you know?
It's a small tidbit. It's a droplet in the ocean that is Erin, of Heather, of any of the listeners' names of our life.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's a loop in the weave of the
Mm-hmm.
thread of that links all of us.
And like to be fair, and I always say, in the vein of validating those experiences, I use the image of like a pie, and that little piece of memory is a sliver. But when it comes to survival things, that sliver is going to impact all the other things. So it
Mhm.
feels like the whole. So sometimes I'm playing this game with like helping people really define their perspective of that. Okay, it does feel like the whole, but it's almost a disservice to every other piece of that slice of the whole of you to only make that one thing be everything, right? The part is never the whole, it's a piece of the whole. So we
Mhm.
get to start to redefine, like, okay, well, how big is that piece? I've made it this whole giant thing, but oh, then I'm discrediting who I am in this space and how I am here and what I do here. And so holistic to me is really encompassing all parts. And then we take off those little fragmented pieces and really understand it differently.
I I like that description and how you gave with the pie, because it does put into perspective then where that particular incident, how it impacts you. You're recognizing
Mm-hmm.
that it may have had a full body impact.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't define though who you are,
Mm-hmm.
and we can acknowledge it we can talk to it, we can walk through it, we can learn from it, and then we can continue to carry on, and it's still there, but it's not the main thing.
Hmm. And I
And
think, oh, go ahead.
it's if that situation comes up again, we know what to do. It's not going to be if we I think if we learned how to process it,
Hmm.
situation comes up again, we could look at it and go, okay, here's something similar. We've been here before. We are okay.
Hmm.
We can get through this.
Hmm.
And it's not a re traumatization
Hmm.
of the initial situation. It's all right. It's data that we're processing. We're not going to die.
Hmm.
We're safe. Let's process it and walk through.
Hmm. And I love that you say that, because these are very touch points in mental health is, I say this often, is teaching that body it's not going to die, right? Like it might have felt that way. And it might have meant, okay, these people are going to shun me if I don't or do something in a certain way, right? That sense of belonging is huge. But here, we're not going to die, right? Like I say, like we have credit cards and we can there's nothing in this. It's gonna maybe hurt and it might not be ideal case, but it's not life or death survival. So now we can start to work with that nervous system. That's where, and this is where I teach a lot of the undercurrents of when we're in that survival state, I really can simplify it down to understanding like most systems go offline. So, run, fight, shut down, fix and fawn, if we will. That's what our body is doing in that survival state when we have that chronic threats. So, in the safety, all systems turn back online. We have higher brain functioning. I do a lot with the heart, higher heart functioning, compassion, understanding. Higher brain functioning is like, logic and reasoning. All of that stuff is offline when we are in the survival states. And then we have what I call like the central column, digestion, depending on what system we're in, is online or offline. Reproduction, this lends right to your work, online or offline. Immune system. So when we're in survival, we literally cannot access optimal wellness. So that awareness is like, okay, body, like, yes, we're not going to die. Now all systems can start to turn back online. We can access a higher order of thinking, feeling, sensing, trusting, joking, curiosity, play, humor, right? Like in survival, we need none of that.
Yeah. And you have no interest in doing any of it.
And that's
Uh,
why, right?
yeah.
It's not
Yes.
online. There's no connectivity there.
Yeah. Uh, Listening to all of this, I think of the different situations I've been in, but and how it sometimes takes a little bit for those systems to come back online
Hmm.
once that trauma takes place.
Hmm.
When you're in that survival mode, what are some of the blaring kind of the body saying you are in survival mode
Hmm.
that we may not realize
Hmm.
are symptoms of being in survival
Hmm.
mode that we just think, oh, this is just how life is.
So this is where I call it getting intimate with self, right? Like there's some obvious stuff where maybe I call it volume or intensity or pace change. So for some people it gets louder, some people it's that shutdown, some people it's really fast, some people it's really still, right? Is your stomach usually in tension? So I work a lot with tension and ease because I find that is the easiest access point, right?
Mhm.
Like if and most of us have a default of tension, right? So like even now if I were to guide everybody to just like check in with your stomach and can you relax your stomach? And like even for me, I instruct this like the hundreds of times a day and because you can do it over and over again and when I check in, I'm in tension. That is my default, right? Where are your shoulders? What's going on with them? Can you relax them? And it's like, yes. We play with posture a lot. How are you moving here? Or can you find alignment? Can you lift through your spine? And those are signals to your brain, like, oh, we don't have to be running or fighting or shutting down. Like, let's just turn it back online if we are, in fact, not in danger, you know? Yeah,
And
so
it
I work a lot in those subtle, subtle cues.
and I like that you brought in the tension and having the stomach slightly in tension because right now we're both in safe spaces,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it's excitement
Mm-hmm.
can bring on that tension as well. And
Mm-hmm.
because the good things your body can view as tension
Mm-hmm.
and as stress. And the nervous system then goes into a panic, like, oh my gosh, what? And you're like, nope, we're safe.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of times that I've sat, I'm like, I can feel my body starting to tense, and it's taken a long time to get to the point where I listen. I've stopped and I'm like, ooh, when I speak sometimes. It's I was like, Heather, slow down. Where are
Mm-hmm.
you going? It's because I'm excited. I'm happy
Mm-hmm.
to be at some place. And other times it's nervousness. And I just have to tell myself, Heather, you're in a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
Just breathe, slow, feel like you're speaking slower than what, like almost drawing out the words.
Mm-hmm.
And you will kind of feel yourself get a little bit more grounded. Bring the shoulders down.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had the black screen talking to somebody and just the screen goes, nope, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what the heck just happened? And I look back, I'm like, I was in a higher stress and my body took it as I was unsafe
Mm-hmm.
and closed the brain. Like
Mm-hmm.
survival.
Mm-hmm.
When we find ourselves in that tension space and we've rolled the shoulder, we kind of straightened out the shoulders, we've pulled the head up, and we're letting our brain, I can feel the oh,
Mm-hmm.
I can feel the change
Mm-hmm. So I
doing
call it
this.
we're reconnecting circuitry.
Yes, I can feel it, and it feels amazing. Um, you can feel that reconnecting the circuitry, but if for somebody who's not accustomed to it, what are some ways that they know that their body's kind of returning into a calmer space? It may not be
Mm-hmm.
as loose as they may want to be, but
Mm-hmm.
there's not as much tension there.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you're tapping into this because this is why we call it training or retraining, and I try to help people understand that, if we were going to train our muscles, let's say, because these are the same, we're training muscles of the brain and pathways and circuitry. We would go and we would, let's say we're going to work our biceps. We're going to go to that gym, let's say, or the living room, wherever, and we're going to probably do it maybe 3 times a week for a short amount of time, 10 minutes, 15, 30 minutes, whatever we do. What we're trying to retrain when we're doing this work is like a program that has been running around the clock all day, right? So this is why we need the training is these things are like low grade all day long, the thoughts, the feelings, the autopilot, they're programs all day. So one, I always say be really gentle in this process. It will take time, you know, and awareness is the key. And for a lot of the world, we live in systems that I say a lot of our systems, our world matches the energy of those survival states. It's quick, it's fast, it's faster. How fast can we go? How loud? We see now our attention spans changing because we're just being inundated with this information. The school systems operate a lot of times in that. The healthcare system operates a lot of time in that. So when we're looking at all, our systems, when we go back into the world, we're directly in that system. So even more. So we're working with circuitry that is undercurrent around the clock and external environments that are in that same system. So we work a lot with capacity. And, time doesn't always mean capacity, right? What's going on in our life at different points in time. So it's really a very gentle work. And I say a lot of times it's about doing less and more about awareness. So if we want to, build that system, the parasympathetic system, let's say the safety system, little cues can be the stomach starts to gurgle, right? The digestive juices are flowing again. Yawning or big sighs, the spontaneous breath is a good sign that our body is growing its capacity. And then I work with the nervous system in also a very different way. We have a lot of, buzzwordy things and practices and big, heavy movements that people are doing in the vein of nervous system support. But in my trainings and with my teachers, think of where the nervous system is, right? It's sort of the brain and the spine, primarily that central column. And I always use the analogy of, when we're holding our babies, we can hold them like a little football, and we're like, 5 feet above the air, and they're just like, life is great, it's so wonderful. And it's like, of course, because we have them at the head and neck and spine. And the same, like, where do we hold our babies? We hold them right here and we rock them right in the crux of our neck. And so when we're working with nervous system support, we actually can mimic some of that of taking the pressure off of the head and neck and spine. So we actually do physical support, not these extravagant movements, and they are helpful in both ways. But not a lot of people are working with, well, how do we support that head and neck and spine? Physically support it, take the weight off of it. So all of a sudden now it's like, oh, okay, that is relaxing. So it's also a very different way of support to that system, which was not your question, but segued into that.
And I love that you segued into it because it reminds me that when I do take time to go and get a facial or a massage,
hmm
they cradle the head and they elongate the neck, and it's just like, ah,
Yeah.
I'm in a safe space. I
Yeah.
I can relax.
hmm
I can enjoy where I'm at. I'm in a safe space. I'm in safe hands. And it touches back into being
hmm
cradled
hmm
and in that just being cared for. When we ignore that tension,
hmm
what how does that impact the body in that negative way?
hmm
What starts showing up that can be those big red flags to almost the 2 by 4, the doctor giving you those diagnoses that
hmm
nobody wants to hear.
hmm
Um, how how does that
hmm
really impact us, be it in those diagnoses of our family members or ourself?
hmm
But I know the nervous system is linked,
hmm
but how does it present itself outside that tension? If we where can it go if we continue to choose to ignore that tension?
And I love you touch on the diagnoses, right? Because I think we live in a world full of them. I was just writing the other day about how when I started my work back in 2006, the book that I was our diagnostics was like only this big, and now it's like double, triple the size. But I call what I do is sort of like the new symptomology is like the adaptation piece of this is what our body does to adapt. So we see, I see a ton of IBS stuff, right? My digestion has been severed, the reproductive has been severed, the thought processes are changing and they're really being, I always say the nervous system is trying to communicate with us, right? And we need to tap back into that language of okay, it is a red flag when it becomes a bigger thing. because we probably have, shut it down and not right now and later and this is not the time and all of the um, emotions we have around that, the shame and embarrassment, and that we're not modeled how to listen. That's a big piece of that. So much of it is learning that an adaptation can happen at any time. Right. So this is like unconventional therapy. I used to call myself like not your average therapist because in holistic, you have to look at all of the systems and how they're working together. So if we're only dealing with stomach and we're not looking at, well, how are all of these other systems communicating? What happens before that stomach and after that stomach? Right? So they do all play on each other. And when we work with that nervous system, we're turning those things back online. I can't access higher order thinking. I can't access compassion, the higher heart qualities, if that nervous system is still operating in survival. And it might not feel like that. There's a lot of low grade undercurrents of tension, of disconnection, of lack of support that happens in our body. How many of the listeners experience chronic fatigue or burnout or, exhaustion? We're calling new things compassion fatigue, like can't deal with it. I see a lot of the movements in relationship. We shut down, we ghost, we block. Those are all the nervous system in chronic threat, considering as long as there's not danger, right? Like all
Yeah.
of that is contextual, but those movements, the intensity that is so quick and so sharp. I can't run, shut down. These are nervous systems to me. And when we understand this, and I do a more formal education on this because we need to understand it, as soon as the body understands it, it's like, oh, now we can access. These are like, a lot of the people that come to therapy that have been in therapy for so long. I have a lot of therapists I work with and train that they know all of the things. They've read all of the books and the podcasts and the self-helps and the practices. It's like, why is it not working? The nervous system is not on board. Once that nervous system is on board, it's like quick.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
It
amazing.
it is because when you learn to help your body get back online,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
reassure the brain.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of yawns here.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
I know the audience can't hasn't been isn't able to watch the video, but there have been a lot of yawns, which
Mm-hmm.
correlates to what Erin was sharing. But when we learn how to bring our nervous system, start bringing it back and turning it back on,
Mm-hmm.
and we get the yawns and we get
Mm-hmm.
the circuitry reconnecting, it's just a really cool tingle. At least for me, it
Mm-hmm.
is. How your body does it, it is how your body does it. That does open then the gateway to those higher compassion
Mm-hmm.
and the understanding and the ability to slow down and the actually ability to put up the boundaries
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that we need to be able to stay kind of more open and
Mm-hmm.
allowing our bodies to stay safe, feel
Mm-hmm.
safe, and the nervous system to be okay. I can focus on reproduction. I
Mm-hmm.
can focus on those higher bodily functions, allowing the body to process the food correctly, to
Mm-hmm.
absorb the nutrients,
Mm-hmm.
to process the micronutrients the way it
Mm-hmm.
needs to. But that definitely takes time and
Mm-hmm.
awareness. Is there something that we can do if we've noticed this, if we've become aware um, of that tension?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something simple that can be done? I say 2, 3 minutes, because I know a lot of my listeners are in that, oh my gosh, if I add
Mm-hmm.
one more thing to my
Mm-hmm.
task list,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're all over the place because they have this huge task list with either kids, work, partners.
Mm-hmm.
It's a we don't want another to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is there something that we can gently and easily incorporate when we notice that
Hmm.
to help our nervous system know that we are safe and start checking in so we can kind of go on with our day and start relaxing and getting
Hmm.
back into that slower mode where we are more productive.
Yes. And I love you're touching on like such important aspects of, the endless task list. And sometimes when we are disembodied is what I call it, when we're not in our bodies or we're in those more survival movements, we take on these big tasks lists. For some of us, it's like power through and more, 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 right? Do, more, more, more is often that same system. And then when we start to move into these safety systems, one, I wanted to touch on this because I think it's important when I work with circuitry, right? So I always like to make people aware of this. When we're accessing more safety, if we have been disconnected at any point in time, I like to use it literally as like light circuitry. So we walk in and we hit the light switch and it goes through the circuitry and the light comes on. When we have severed that connection for whichever reason at any point in time, a lot of times we're still coming in and hitting that switch, and we're hitting that switch, but the light isn't going on. And what happens is those experiences become stored. That electricity, if you will, is stored. And now, in this work, when we're accessing more safety, it's actually connecting wires. So I always like to make people aware that when those wires connect, it is a perfect output for what is stored inside of us. Right. So this is why a lot of people like I used to teach yin yoga and it's a lot of stillness and people are like that is not for me, never. And it's like, right, because what happens when we're still? We're going to have to feel, we're going to have to think, we're going to have to remember, we're going to have to release. And again, that nervous system that's informing us is often very young, and to a very young nervous system that is overwhelming, right? That's a lot of stuff in there. And so when we connect those wires, those thoughts from that time can start to resurface. Those emotions can start to resurface, those memories, and they have to release. So, instead of processing all the time, it's like, oh, that's what's in my body. Let's release that. Oh, that's what Erin is talking about. It's releasing. Instead of be afraid of it. And we always timestamp. I am an adult. It is 2025, almost 2026. I can manage this. I can manage big emotions, but it's that little nervous system talking and releasing. So I always like to say that as we speak to safety, that's important because it can be very overwhelming when you're like, oh my, why do I want to throw a tantrum? Literally. Because that never got to express, right? Why do I want to scream and throw things? Because it never got to express. So it's just trying to communicate with you. Hey, I've been holding this in your little body for this long.
Mhm.
But the access points to that for me are really simple. And I generally will start with feet, right? I'm going to tap into your feet right now because we can do that and nobody knows. What
Mhm.
are they touching? Is it hard or soft? Are they hot or cold? And often, what that can do is it brings that, to do list, the task list, the thoughts, the worries, the planning, the out of body experiences up here above our heads, out of body, way up high, right to our feet, feet to earth. It's going to start to ground us a little bit. Oh, actually, my feet are really cold. Or, ooh, I don't like this texture under my feet, right? We can do that with touch, touch something. And then I go right to stomach. Stomach is my access point. That's the easy
Mhm.
access point. Just relax it, soften, and notice maybe posture starts to change for me always, right? Because I'm thinking, I'm having a conversation, I'm out of my body right now. Oh, yeah, my stomach just wants to, be in contraction, right? So those are my two like entry points of check in with that stomach. That is going to be a great way to turn the system back online. Simplified.
Yeah. And I really appreciate the simplification because, like I said, I know
Mm-hmm.
I hear it all the time. I've got this, the noise
Mm-hmm.
that's up here.
Mm-hmm.
And that noise is just twisting that nervous system and
Mhm.
raising that, like, I have to do everything. I have to go, 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 go. I have to produce. I have to
Mhm.
do this. I, thing is, though, what we have to remember is we need to recognize how that'll take a toll on us.
Mhm.
We're actually needing that oxygen mask.
Mhm.
And by listening to that belly and by
Mhm.
paying attention, by realizing where our feet are at, as you were sharing about the
Mhm.
feet, I have a slate floor in my studio, in my office. My feet are normally in slippers because it is a pretty chilly mid-Atlantic day,
Mhm.
and I don't have a lot of heat under the stone. So the stones are chilly,
Mhm.
but I can feel the grooves of the stone. I can feel the grouting between the stones, and my feet are chilly to touch. I'm touching the colder floor, but then I can also put my feet in my slippers and there's warmth.
Mhm.
And it does, it takes away with where I'm at in my head.
Mhm.
Like, what questions can I ask? Where can I go next? What about this? What about that? How can we get, all right, it's this amount of time into it. I have this much. I'm
Mhm.
like, just putting the feet on the slate.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, okay, we're good. We're safe.
And that's the point, is that it interrupts the loop circuitry, like the one that's running all the time, just for a moment. So we get into, a little more left brain, a little more logical, a little more tangible, a little more concrete, not so much story. And we can go right back to it. We probably will go right back to it. That is most of the default, right? But that little interruption creates the space where I say we can choose to say and do and act the same exact way, but do it with intention now, not autopilot, right? And so that's where I really just the awareness and the training. And when we're tapping into some of the old mechanisms, does that actually work to have a super long task list? How are you sleeping at night? How are you digesting your food? How is your cycle? Let's bring it back.
Mm-hmm.
Like these things are communicating with you. So when there's IBS, when there's stomach stuff, we're seeing a ton of autoimmune stuff. You know, I see a ton of mental stuff. Why do you think that is now more than ever? We are not synced with our natural cycles. We're way off course and we're not syncing with our body rhythms when it's saying, hey, slow down. I can't, this is too much. It's not sustainable to power through
Nope.
for indefinitely, you know?
No. And with cycles, I let people know we have a spot in our cycle where our body wants to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
It is our winter season. We
Mm-hmm.
want to wear comfy clothing. We don't want to interact with people.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And when we honor that, it allows us to move into our spring season where activity returns and our
Mm-hmm.
energy returns, and we're able to go through spring and summer and go through that task list like you wouldn't believe,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
versus trying to get through it in winter. Winter's our time to just let our body release and relax. It's just knowing where we're at. And sometimes you can go through, if anybody's been to Pennsylvania, we can have all four seasons in a single day.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar to our bodies. We can have all four seasons in a single day. We can have
Mm-hmm.
that season. We can have winter where we don't want to be around people, where our energy returns like spring, where we're getting things done. And then we just want to go and we want to have a gathering with select few people and just sit and enjoy their warmth before we want to be alone again.
Mm-hmm.
Can have that all in a day. And it's honoring that and honoring what our bodies and our nervous systems are telling us. And I think it's just, I believe it's important, as you do, because if you didn't, you wouldn't have been doing this for 20 some years. But just learning to listen.
Mm-hmm.
and honoring that. It allows us to do more
Mm-hmm.
without the nervous system going offline.
And I love that you're touching on that because in the brain body connection, they're working together. Right. So I see a lot of women that are not in tune with their cycles, right? So to even track it to see, like, oh, my mood does this, or yes, I'm feeling a little more tired. And then the brain starts to kick in of like, oh, you must be sick, or oh, you're too lazy, or oh, the thoughts start to like match the body. But when we understand the rhythms, like you're saying, and I say the same in this work, is that pause is just to build a little bit of capacity for the regeneration, for the rejuvenation and the replenishment. And you will be able to go back to those things with a different clarity, with a different energy, you know? So I love that you're touching on that. That's so important. Brain is going to feed the body, from what it knows, and what is our barometer for that information? Who's directing that, you know, action is what we're supposed to do, or productivity, or, instead of rest and listening.
And usually that productivity is an internal, we have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
I want to get to XYZ goal, I have to do A, B, and C.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process, we're missing the middle of the alphabet that connects the entire body. So it's the bookends, but we got to look at the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And that
And
middle,
and when you're speaking to that, um, I saw two things. Like one, as I saw these two bookends, and then the middle. Like that is the crux of this work for me, is the heart space of, connecting in yoga, like what is above us and what is below us. And in my work, what is behind us and what is in front of us. And that all happens when we kind of start to remove these barriers and when we start to turn these systems back online. But a huge piece of what you just said that I use in my work, I pull from two really important works. Masaru Emoto, who does the hidden messages in water, if the listeners don't know. So he's really, or was, tracking how vibration of words and movement and thought impact the structure, the molecular structure of water, right? So that is important when we have the visual of, oh, these positive and uplifting and supportive and collaborative words actually change us on a, molecular structural level. And the work of David Hawkins, and this is really profound work, who has matched, he calls it, I think, the scale of consciousness. I use it in my work and I call it the frequency of emotions. And so important to understand in this work that shame and guilt come in at the lowest point on that scale, right? And I don't use like good or bad. I don't use words like positive or negative. In my work, it's, do you feel you have more or less personal power? Right? And that's a different understanding of it. It's like, oh, yeah. So when you feel shame or guilt that I should be doing this other thing, do you feel you have more or less personal power? So shame and guilt come in at 20 and 30 on that scale. And I think this is just, I want to leave your listeners with this because it's awesome. And you're getting my work, like, you don't, it's free right here. But the words we use matter. So you can go through, the whole scale of emotions. But what I find so powerful in that is courage is where that scale starts to tip, right? So you could use like constructive and destructive, empowered or disempowered, light and heavy in the terms of frequency. So at 200, that scale will start to tip. And that's with courage, right? Courage to try something different, courage to look at myself, courage to have the conversation, courage to all of it. But even more important, and this is an access point, easy access point, even higher than that, which means you are now in more empowered spaces, more personal power, is neutrality. So if we can find neutral, it's not good or bad, it's just what's showing up. It's just this thing, it's just this memory, it's just this, and we can access neutral. We've just tapped into personal power. Right? Like I'm telling you, it's so much easier than we think. It's not all the protocol. I mean, do they help? Yes, when that nervous system is online, but neutrality will start to turn that system back on. And that's not just from everyone else. That is like self to self. What is our own internal language? What is our own internal sensations? Can I make it neutral?
I'm very happy you brought it back to the neutrality because it is very important to
Hmm.
hit that neutral. Our time is getting close to the end. You have given us so much information, Erin. Thank you. If people would like to work with you or learn more from you, where
Hmm.
can they find you?
Sure, yes. So I usually give my Instagram, which is anahata_wellness. And that will have links to my personal programs. The space is another way if people want to practice. This is something we're really launching in the new year just to give myself some decompression time. But that is going to be classes with me. So it's group style, drop in, learn, have conversations. It's like if you don't want to invest in the deep work just yet and you want to try it out, learn alongside me. Like that's sort of my, I don't know, test it out. And then yes, then there's a way to work with me deeper in the coaching programs. But we cover a lot of this and we get into the specifics of the story and how we can untether and rewire and turn all of these systems back online. And that is really for collective healing. Like we can make huge impact, not just in our own lives, in our relationships, but in the world. This is how we access that. So I feel so honored that, yeah, and it's so interesting having these conversations now, towards the end of the year where cycles start to change and we have this like, we're talking about flow and releasing and creating space for new. I was just like, oh, the timing of this is so beautiful. So thank you.
It is my pleasure. You've given us again a lot of information. Is there any wise words of wisdom that you would like for us to take with us before we end?
Ooh, what do I want to leave you with? I'd say, yeah, be really gentle with yourself, whatever level you're at, wherever you are in the journey. These processes are really intuitive, like they know their function is survival. And when we're trying to convince them that we're moving away from that and that we don't need that anymore, they're going to try to get a little loud. Like they're going to say, "Hey, are you sure about that? We're going to turn this up really high." Um, so if you understand those processes, just be really gentle with yourself. Like less is so much more in this work. Gentle goes even further, whether it's your language, your movements, allowing yourself rest, you know, turning these systems online can be uncomfortable. And so like part of it is like getting comfortable being uncomfortable and like it's as long as you're really not going to die, like you're not going to die. Let's keep telling our bodies that, and that is going to start to activate different systems. And you've got tons of support. So, if you're really wanting support, like we're here for you for that. So, that's the idea.
Absolutely. We are definitely here to support. Thank you so much, Erin, for taking us on this enlightening journey into our nervous system and how to turn off the I don't want to say negative, but the deeper emotions and allowing us to turn our nervous system back on.
Yes, it is my pleasure. It has been wonderful conversations. Thank you so much, Heather.
That is my pleasure. I appreciate it. All of the links can be found on how to find Erin in the show notes. Thank you so much, listeners, for spending your time with us today. If you found a nugget of wisdom or a moment of empowerment, our mission is accomplished. Do you know someone who could benefit from this information? Please share Embracing Flow with them. In every phase, embrace it, love it, crown it, and be vividous. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the show, submit a rating and review, and share it with your friends. Visit my website, embracingflowpodcast.com, to receive your free guide on 4 ways to decrease PMS. The link is in the show notes. Information shared on the Embracing Flow podcast is for educational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice. Until next time, love hard, laugh often, and always be vividous.